which we had considered buying at 55 at Lime Lake, now Otasaga Bible Conference. The board members prayed, searched, and the Lord provided this property. The purchase involved a $60 a month mortgage, which the board members and one other agreed to underwrite. As I remember, we put our homes up as collateral. Immediately after the purchase of the land, much cleanup work was necessary. The old buildings broke miles of barbed wire fencing, a real hazard to campers. Jim Brandes made this his personal project. Rutted lanes presented a real challenge. I remember the first board meeting on the farm. The Hickory name came later. There was snow on the ground. We burned down the old chicken coop and granary that day. The meeting that evening was in the kitchen of the old house, around a big pot-belly stove. Every once in a while we would stand up and turn around to warm our backside and cool our knees. For our first year of camp, found churches building cabins. Our unit built the first pit toilets. They were necessary also. The house was turned into a dining hall, 2 10-foot tables and 1 7-foot table so the kitchen door could open and shut. The next years, the lake was put in, a tractor purchased, culvert over the creek, mobile home for caretaker, septic systems, water lines, dining hall. We sold timber from west of the cabin area to help pay for it. The hayloft of the barn was floored, making it a safe rainy-day facility. Easton Lodge was built, Holland Craft Building, the pit toilet at the lake, camp area, pine trees planted, the rifle range built and roofed. Japanese larch trees were planted on the east lot line, floating dock at the lake, to name a few. The board members were very active and personally involved in most of these projects. The barn burned down June 1963, a tremendous loss of facility and equipment. This just 2 weeks before Pioneer girls were to start 4 weeks of camp. By the following Saturday, the mess had been cleaned up, and we were rebuilding a shower area now long gone. At the time Pioneer girls were registering the following Saturday, I was hooking up to 55-gallon drums which provided heated water for the showers. We rented an army tent for bad weather. By the time boys camp started, we were building a more stable meeting area over the showers. Some of the area directors during this time were Mo Richardson, Sam Wolf, who later served at Brigade Headquarters in Wheaton, Illinois. Eugene Field was a volunteer area director during the late 40s and early 50s. There could be so much more said, so many instances of the Lord's provision of equipment and material. Also the dedication of so many of his servants as counselors and leaders. May God bless you all at Hickory Hill as he has in the past.
In the late 60s and early 70s, our camp was still growing. Our new duplex house was completed in 1968. The Green Building, which was our temporary activity building built when the original barn burnt down, needed to be replaced. This building was not only our activity building, but also housed our shower facilities, our maintenance shop, and our equipment. So a barn was purchased in 1968 from New York State, dismantled by the men of Orchard Park Wesleyan Church, and re-erected in 1969 by the men of the Clarence Center Brethren Church. That barn is our maintenance building today. 2 new latrines and a new shower house were built also in 1969. After much planning, on March 3, 1972, the board approved a $10,000 loan to start the new activity building, and construction was started. While all this was going on, there was a new cabin built with the interior walls paneled. Built-in bunks were installed in all cabins. A concrete floor was poured in the dining hall kitchen area. A wood ceiling was installed in the dining hall. 10 voting booths were purchased for the various craft areas, and a couple thousand trees were purchased as seedlings and planted. The summer camping program was progressing well. We worked with the Pioneer girls who used our facilities 4 and 5 weeks during the summer. In 1967, camp fee was $25 for 7 days. Camper check-in was Saturday morning at 11, and check-out was Saturday morning at 10. In 1968, Mo Richardson, our regional brigade staff representative and our camp director, requested that registration for camp start on Sunday afternoon with a checkout on Saturday morning. In 1969, we applied for membership in the American Camping Association, and the progress began to meet their requirements. In September 1970, we received our accreditation. In January 1969, Mo Richardson began his leave of absence. For the following several years, we had various camp directors, which included Paul Cook, Harry Buchanan, and Bob Draper. Jack Corbett, who became our full-time brigade staff representative in October 1970, then took over as summer camp director. In 1967, we started specialty camps for boys ages 14 years and older who must also attend 1 week of regular camp. The second week was a choice of Mariner Camp, where boys went on a 4-day canoe trip in the Adirondacks; Woodsman Camp, a supervised survival hike in a 7,000-acre forest; Sportsman Camp, where boys set up and run the sports program for camp; Airman Camp, boys living on an airfield, getting ground school instruction and flying time; and a craft technician camp, where boys learned ham radio, photography, and automobile mechanics. All this happens for one reason. Every ounce of energy and every penny invested are for the purpose of winning and training boys for Jesus Christ. May our Lord be praised as we continue to stay focused on Him.
Hi, I'm Don Hills, and I'm here to report some comments on the years 1974 to 1984. Like most men involved in Camp Hickory Hill ministry, I was first involved with Christian Service Brigade ministry at Orchard Park Wesleyan Church, in which we brought our boys to camp for special events, bike hike-a-thon, various work projects, overnights, tubing, summer camp. The Bright and Keen for Christ Arch changed a lot of lives, young and old. On one of our weekend overnights, we were exploring camp on a Saturday morning and came upon Don Haas working on the waterfront shelter. It was in the spring of 1980 that we helped him dig some post holes for the waterfront shelter support poles, and we were working, and Don called me over to the side and explained that camp was in trouble because the state wanted major pond improvements to allow continued swimming at the summer camp. He concluded that we need a pool, and we need it now for summer camp because camp isn't camp without the swimming program. After that, the Lord made sure that there was swimming at summer camp, and it continues in use today, 25 years later. Of all the boys that spent time at camp, a lot went on to Christian Service Brigade work, pastoring, youth leaders, and teachers, and we believe that they are better men no matter what they do because of their camp and brigade experiences. Some of them are here today. Ask them. Some projects done during this time period were the activities building, which was built prior but continued to be finished, and Ray Mulholland took charge of that. The waterfront shelter, Don Haas, that was at the pond, where I got hooked for the pool. The pool, I would like to thank all that helped, with special thanks to Beauty Pool, Norm Downer Construction, Brad Griffiths, Downer Construction, Bill Taylor, Mennonites, who did the masonry work on the pool house, It's been in use almost 25 years. The infirmary building, the nurses' station, Pollard's place. Again, special thanks to Dave Byron for cabinets, Dave Dustin for plumbing, Dan Dart for construction heat during the project, Steve Mormon for paneling and wire materials, Tom Narby installing drywall, JT Siding Corp, the enclosure, Bob O'Connor painting, Al Torres delivery, Jack Turner installing insulation and paneling, a local pastor for taping the drywall, and local plant electrician who I worked with a Saturday, and I paid attention to what he was doing, and the next week he had a heart attack, and I finished the wiring by myself from what I learned from him that Saturday. So I guess that's it.
Camp Hickory Hill has had a meaningful part in the life of our family, even before my husband, Jack Corbett, was the summer camp director, because he was on the camp board and our family spent many great camping weekends at Camp Hickory Hill. In the decade from 1985 to 1994, Camp Hickory Hill continued many of the same programs, both for summer camp and year-round camp. They also initiated several new summer camp programs, as well as making many improvements to the facilities. Tree Climbers and Stockade had programs in swimming, handcraft, games, horsemanship, as well as Bible X and campfires. Battalion had programs in riflery, archery, swimming, games, horsemanship, as well as Bible X and campfire. For older boys, there were high adventure and airman trails, and in 1985, a bike hike. In 1986, Dick Gibbs and Dan Richbart took a group of about 10 boys on the rugged high adventure trail to the Adirondack Mountains, where they hiked and camped. In 1989, fathers were invited to accompany their sons on the high adventure trail after the boys had had a week of preparation at camp. In 1989, a 4-day father-son program was instituted for stockaders, and for battalion, a mariner trail was added. This was held at or near a body of water with an experienced sailor who taught them the basics of sailing and gave them some practice in sailing. During the years from 1990 to 1994, many new programs were added. The Stockade program now included floor hockey, soccer, photography, lacrosse, and advanced horsemanship. The battalion program now included carpentry, cycling, and cross-country, which focused on using one's athletic abilities to glorify God. In this time period, due to increased costs of running the camp, the feeder campers went from $90 per week to $135 per week. The 3 to 4 day father-son programs went from $100 to $135 a week for the 2 people. Improvements to the facilities were constantly being made. The farmer who rented some of the land installed drain pipes to drain the wet areas at no cost to camp. North Syracuse Baptist Church built a cabin in 86-87. Also in 1987, a corral was built for the horses, with the former nature building being moved to the site to be used for tack and other supplies. A soccer field was built and later extended. A new leach field was installed. The kitchen was updated and remodeled, and a non-sulfur well was dug. This new well was very well received by all, as you can imagine. In 1988-89, a much-needed concrete restroom shower house was built, which allowed for men's and women's accommodations for flush toilets, sinks, and showers. Also, the old voting booths that were used for radio and autocrafts were removed. In 1991, the lake was drained and a dike built to enlarge the lake for canoeing, fishing, and other activities. In 1994, new mattresses were purchased, laundry facilities added, and a large tent was erected on the east side of the dining hall to be used for registration and, more importantly, for much-needed extra seating at meal times. The use of camp was steady, winter and summer, with summer camp, weekend individual brigade unit activities, camporama, stockorama, special events such as pork roasts, chicken barbecues, with Memorial Day and Labor Day family outings, and church groups having family camps. There were several camp caretakers during these years. They were Dan and Diane Dart, Jay and Carrie Washburn, Rick and Karen Cobb, Mark and Wanda Pop, Clarence and Ruth Havens, who are still at camp doing a wonderful job. A Christian camping consultant was employed to help improve the camp and its ministry. Ed Babcock was executive director from 1991 to 1993. He promoted camp in different ways. One way was a delicious dinner served at Hamburg Wesleyan Church, where people were given an opportunity to make a pledge to the camp ministry. Pete Metzelaars from the Buffalo Bills was the main speaker. In 1992, Jack Corbett, after 20 years of service to the Lord, retired from Christian Service Brigade and director of summer camp at Camp Hickory Hill. Jack was very pleased when the ministries of Christian Service Brigade and Camp Hickory Hill were given to Sam Richbart, whom he had worked with in all capacities at camp and in all aspects of Christian Service Brigade. As you can see, camp was on the move during the decade of 1985 to 1994, as it is to this day in 2005 on its 50th anniversary.
It's clear that the facilities, programs, and most importantly, the ministry of Camp Hickory Hill have grown tremendously since 1955, and the years from 1995 to the present are no exception. There's a verse in the book of Job that says, "Stand still and consider the wondrous works of God." As I reflect on the past 10 years, I thank God for the many ways that His wondrous works have been carried out at Camp Hickory Hill. The facilities have grown a lot over the past 10 years to accommodate God's plan. A major renovation of the gym took place when a new floor, roof, walls, windows, and siding were installed. In 1996, a heating system for the gym was in place, making it available for use during the winter for the first time since it was built in the early 1970s. Expansion of the camp's housing capacity also began in 1996, when 4 of the 12 cabins were enlarged to sleep 12 people instead of 8. After increasing the number of people who could be housed at camp, a larger dining facility was needed. After more than 2 decades of wishing and dreaming, the camp was in a good financial position to expand the original dining hall, which had been in use since 1958. In 1997, planning and fundraising began for a 2-story addition to the dining hall. As the planning effort moved forward, engineering concerns made an addition to the existing dining hall expensive and impractical, without adequately meeting the camp's long-term needs. Therefore, in 1998, the Board of Directors made a prayerful decision to abandon plans for expanding the old dining hall and construct a completely new building for preparing and serving meals to camp guests. By that time, the camp was being fully utilized all summer long, and a variety of groups were using the facilities almost every weekend. While additions to the camp's housing capacity had been made, only about half of the people who could then be housed would fit into the dining hall at any one time. It had become increasingly difficult to schedule programs, feed guests, conduct rainy day and winter activities, and hold indoor worship services. Plans were finalized for a separate building with restrooms, a commercial kitchen, and seating space for 300 people. Construction began in the fall of 1998, and the new dining hall was completed and in use by May of 2001. Other significant facility improvements during the past 10 years include enlarging the remaining cabins and constructing 1 new cabin. In 1998, a new bridge, made from a salvaged railroad car, was erected over Gull Creek after a heavy summer rainfall washed away the existing bridge to the pond a week before summer camp began. A new camp store was constructed, and improvements were made to the rifle and archery ranges. A new horse corral and tack room were built. The old dining hall was converted into a recreation room for camp guests. A 35-foot-high outdoor climbing wall was constructed, and a second shower house was recently added. While it's easy to get caught up in discussion about the many improvements to the buildings and grounds, the truly wondrous works of God at Camp Hickory Hill involve what he does in the hearts and lives of the people who are exposed to his grace, mercy, and love when they visit the camp. Over the past 10 years, an increasing number of people have heard and responded to the Word of God through the ministry of Camp Hickory Hill. Yearly attendance at summer camp programs of Christian Service Brigade has increased every year since 1995. Almost 4,000 boys have participated in the brigade summer programs in the last 10 years, and 1,000 of those boys reported decisions to commit themselves to a relationship with Jesus Christ while they were at summer camp. The Elam Fellowship of Churches annually operates its Camp Judah summer programs to spread the gospel message to young people through the facilities of Camp Hickory Hill. Since 1995, a multitude of families have grown together in fellowship with God as a result of the Memorial Day and Labor Day family camping weekends. Over the last 10 years, thousands of boys and their fathers have gathered for the October Father and Son weekends to spend time together in the Word of God. Many fathers have also enjoyed winter recreation and Christian fellowship with their children during the annual Father-Son and Father-Daughter snow days. An exciting new program development was the addition of the Girls Alive Summer Camp Ministry in 2004. 63 girls participated with 25 teen and adult leaders in the inaugural program last summer. It's encouraging to see how the model of ministry that God has refined so successfully with boys and men over the last 50 years is now being used to meet the spiritual needs of girls and women. It's my prayer that God will continue to richly bless this ministry to young people and their families, and that a half-century from now, godly people will gather together to celebrate 100 years of the wondrous works of God through that special place called Camp Hickory Hill. To God be the glory.